In the second part of our Premiere tutorials, we will talk about video sizes and transitions. So stay tuned and let's get started. So we're starting again from the very beginning. We're creating a new project and we pick a name and the location that the project will be stored. This time we are going to use the next advanced user interface layout, and that is not assembly but editing. As soon as we open the editing window, we see that we now have our project window a little bit smaller, the timeline a little bit longer, and we have two windows up here. One is our monitor to see what's going on in the timeline, and the other one has different possibilities to edit things, edit the source, but also edit effects and transitions and so on. So let's get started with importing our 3 clips again. Double click on import and select your 10-second clips, and this time we're going to create the timeline, the sequence, the timeline in the timeline a little bit different. We're not going to pull the first clip onto the new button, but this time I'm going to click the new button and choose new sequence. You could also go up here to file, new sequence. That is the same thing. When you choose to create your own sequence, you have to pick the settings that you're using. And I would like to use one that has I create my own. I'm using a little template here that is the, not this one, not DVPAL. I'm going to use one that is digital SLR, and I'm using a 1080p and 30 frames per second. So I'm using the digital SLR 1080p 30. That means it's 1080p full HD and 30 frames per second. If you want to watch the settings, you can do it here. You can also move over to settings and enter something else. So you can choose a different layout. You can choose, there's no difference between 29.97 and 30, but you can also fix that. 1920 by 1080 running at 30 frames per second. Okay, so here's my timeline. If you watched the last video, you know that my little 10-second clips, or 8-second clips for that matter, they are not in 1920 by 1080, but they are in 3800, so it's twice the size. Why did I choose the full HD 1920 by 1080? Because I would like to show you how to deal with different sizes. And as long as the video is larger than your sequence, it doesn't matter. You can always rescale it. But let's show you what that means. So I'm going to take my first clip here and bring it into the timeline. My timeline is much too long. It's I don't know, 10 minutes long or so. And here's the first thing. Your clip does not match the sequence settings. The reason is you can see the 30 frames per second and 30.01. I don't know why the iPhone records 30.01 frames per second. So you can change your sequence settings, or I would like to keep the existing because it is also the size, and I would like to keep the size that I already made. So keep the existing settings. And now you will see, let me zoom into my timeline a little bit more. So here's my clip, like again, 1/3 of your work area. Here's my clip, and you can see that it is zoomed in. So I'm just seeing like half of it. It is 2 times too large. And how to deal with a video that is basically too large for my sequence is you can resize it. Pretty simple. You select your clip and you do a right mouse click. And on the right mouse click, you can see somewhere a button that's called Scale to Frame Size. So whatever video you have, it will be scaled down. If it's too small and you scale it up, then you will get poor video quality. But scale to frame size, and you see, zip, it zooms down to half the size. This button, and if I do another right click, you can see it stays there. So this video will always be scaled to frame size. Let's do it again. pull in the second video somewhere later on and move your time slider over here, and you can see also this video is too large. I'm going to show you a different way to scale it down. Basically what I need the video is twice the size, so I need to scale it down to 50%. You can also scale it by selecting your clip, and now here on the top left corner you can see effect controls. So for this video, which I have selected right now, I can see some of the basic effects to it. It's basically just size and so on and so on. You can see here video effects and audio effects, and what I would like to take a look at is motion, and I'm opening up motion, and you can see motion is the position of the video, the scale of the video, and also the rotation if you want to rotate it and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the scale, and here it says 100%. If I move this, you can see, zoom in and zoom out. I'm just move it to 50%. You can also click there and say 50% and enter. So now the video is scaled to 50%. That only works if the real video is really twice the size. If you're not sure, you can just do a right click and scale it to video size, and then it does it automatically for you. So that is two ways to scale a video. You can see the difference between the two clips. The automatic scale to frame size does not show here in the timeline. The scaling down to 50% does show by having a yellow FX. That means I have changed something to the video, placed a certain effect on it and so on. In this case, I just scaled it. It's not really an effect. Let's bring it, now I'm not bringing it together. Let's bring in the third one, and it's up to you what kind of scaling that you want to use. If you want to use a right click and scale to frame size, or go into the scale here and choose the 50%. I'm going to do the right click and scale to frame size also for this video. So now we have those three videos again. We changed the size slightly. Of course, you can also zoom in if you want to see the video larger, and you can also zoom in to less than 50%. Let's go back here to less than 50%. If you want to have a small video, you can also change it to different locations if you want to place, a picture in a picture and so on. Something I would do for the YouTube videos towards the end. In here, now you see I've moved it to a different position. I scaled it to 20%. Here's also a reset button on the right side, reset parameters, and then it will be reset to center, and scale will be reset to 100 and 50 if I want to have it the same size as before. Okay, so we're done here in the effects. The next thing is if you place videos on top of each other, and now again I'm going to use two different tracks for both video and audio. That means when I bring them on top of each other, they will overlap and they will not move, squeeze in the previous one. Because now we are trying to place a transition between the two videos. Right now, I'm seeing the bottom video up to the point where the top video kicks in, and then I see the top video. It's a hard edit, so one picture, the previous before is the old video, and right after it is the new one. So there's no transition blending in from one into the other. If you want to blend from one video to another, you have to make sure that they overlap, because for the time that you're blending, and you say you want to blend for 1 second, for example, for this 1 second, you have to have both videos. So you have to overlap when you want to place a transition. And the transitions are, let's open it. Usually when we are in editing, in the editing mode, the transitions do not show up here. So the editing is still meant to go without transitions. The transitions are here, for example, under effects, or you can also go to window. Oh, that's window open effects. So here's the effect window. In the effect window, you see all kinds of audio effects and video effects, and we're looking for video transitions. And here is a friendly warning to all of you people out there. When you open up the video transitions, you can see that there is hundreds, no, not hundreds, but tons of video transitions there. And I don't want you to use all of them. In fact, I just want you to use a couple of them, and don't use any page, peel, Irish, zoom, wipe, and so on, slide. Here under dissolve, and if you open the second one, dissolve, you can see that I highlighted for you the one that you should actually use if you want to blend from one video into the other, and that is called cross dissolve. So this is how it works. You make sure the two videos overlap, then you grab cross dissolve and drop it on the top one. It will add, here it says cross, and you can also zoom in a bit and it's getting larger. Here it says cross dissolve. If you move your time slide and you watch the video, the moment now when they overlap, you can see that one video blends into the other. For the time of the transition, it blends from one picture into the other. Just to show you what those other awful transitions do, I'm going to get rid of my cross dissolve. You can select the transition by itself and you can hit delete and then it's gone. Let's take page peel, for example, and take this one and bring it here. This is what page peel does. Watch the video up here. If I move it, and it kind of peels from one to the other. Friendly warning again, do not use those. You don't want people just to concentrate on whatever silly transition the person was used. Make sure you keep it as simple as possible. And not using a transition is perfectly fine. So you don't need to place transitions for every single time you want to switch from one video to another. So dissolve, cross dissolve is the one that you should use. This is the one that you always use when you need a transition. There's also two others, or actually one which is commonly used. And if you have watched a TV interview, you might have noticed, for example, that there's an interview with a politician and they edit the video later on by cutting pieces out. And to make sure that everybody knows that this is an edited video, they add what's called a dip to white transition. So right now I have removed the transition here, and if I use dip to white and place the dip to white transition, please watch the video again up here, you can see it flashes into a white picture and then it continues with the second video. So this flash, so it kind of blends into a white picture and then blends into the other picture. That is commonly used in TV interviews when you want to make sure that the audience notices this has been edited. But in my case, I want to place a simple cross dissolve here. The cross dissolve transition usually lasts less than 1 second. When you hold your mouse, when you select it and you look on the top left effect controls, you can see that it lasts for 25 frames, so less than a second. If you, for some reason, want to have a really slow transition, let's say for 2 seconds, you can just click up here and change this to 2 seconds. And now you have a 2 second long transition, but you have to make sure when the transition is 2 seconds that also the two videos overlap for 2 seconds. So in my case, it's not enough. They both overlap for less than 2 seconds, and I have to move it so that they overlap more than 2 seconds, and now you have a really slow blend from one into the other. If you blend from one video into the other, you have to take the movement in the picture into account. So for example, in this case, it somehow looks weird in this region when suddenly the lens is getting larger. So those two clips are not the best ones to blend really slowly. Okay, so place the transition, change the size, change the length of the transition by selecting the transition, and here it says duration. This is how long the transition is taking place. So let's bring that to, I don't know, 1 second, and now here's a perfect transition. Okay, so that is how you deal with different size videos and using transition on those videos. Okay, I don't need to export my video, that is the same thing in the first video, and I'm going to show you more details in our next video. So stay tuned and I'll see you then.